Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today or whenever you're tuning in to the podcast. And my guest today is Moni Castaneda. And Moni, welcome today.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy that you invited me to come back to your podcast.
Oh, well, you're welcome. I'm going to read your biography here again for people. Um, and I was just going to say Moni Castaneda is a Feng Shui consultant, speaker, and author who has devoted over 2 decades to the study and practice of Feng Shui. And she's written several books to share her knowledge. Moni blends her knowledge of Western architecture with Eastern Feng Shui to help clients turn their current homes into dream homes that support them in every area of their lives. The result of working with Moni is a life you love in a home that you love. And her links are her program is the 9 steps of Feng Shui, or 9 steps to Feng Shui.
Yes.
.com is her website, and that's her program. So you can see that link below to get hold of, to reach out to Moni if you're interested. And also in our podcast at the end of January, Moni was our guest here. And for more of her story, her personal story of getting into Feng Shui and things, you can listen to that podcast. And I wanted, Moni is here again today for Friend a Tree Week. Where that I have on every equinox, and I'll just post the picture there. It started yesterday, March 17th to 24 this spring, to help everyone learn how you can send your intentions through trees throughout the universe. And so Moni, in part of the Feng Shui, works with landscaping and trees. And we were just talking earlier here about, she had just happened to make a post. It's great how the universe works. And so she had made a post this morning about trees. And Moni, would you want to start with that, talking about your
Yes,
post?
that's a great way to start. And so, in a lot of people who are into feng shui, they talk about the money corner, and there's no money corner in feng shui. There's a wealth corner, and there's a spot in the home which is towards the front of the home, in the middle of the wall that is your front wall. The middle of that is the career area, and the career area is associated with money. And at the back left of the home, you have the left corner, but they're separate. They're not the same thing. And in our culture, people tend to equate money with wealth. And that's not true, because money and wealth have very different types of energy. So money is associated with water. And what does water do? Water soaks and goes down. So you just have money. If you have money under the mattress, right, that money loses value. Its nature is to soak. Water soaks and goes down. So the only way to prevent the loss of money is to take that money and invest it. Now, in Feng Shui, the symbol for wealth is the tree. The only way that you can make sure that you retain the water, that the water doesn't get just absorbed by the earth, or just evaporates with the sunshine. The only way to keep the water is to make it go up a tree. And so the tree is the symbol of investments. When the water goes up the tree, the roots pick it up and it keeps going up the tree. And it is going against gravity. And actually, scientists have not yet figured out how a tree pulls the water, a very tall tree, because according to the laws of physics, you can only pull water up to a certain height. And beyond that, the trees do it, but we don't know yet how they do it. And so when you are able to absorb the water through the roots, and it goes up the trunk, and then it hits the branches, the foliage, and the flowers, and then the fruit, and then you can collect the fruit. That is wealth, and that the healthy tree is a representation of wealth. And in the people who study trees, they talk about mother trees. And the mother tree is a large, well-established tree that is of a certain age, right? So what they have found is wherever you have a mother tree, everything that is, I think it's a 25 radius around the mother tree, everything does better. So all the plants that are near the tree or under the tree, they benefit. If there's a drought, because the tree is so large and it can go so deep into the earth, the tree brings water so that other plants can use it. It brings up water. And it also, if the summer is really, really hot, the temperature is going to be a few degrees cooler under the tree. So there's a lot of life that thrives under a tree. And the tree is the symbol for wealth. So your money is going to be lost unless you invest it. And you invest it in a tree, right? Like the water goes through a tree. So the investments that we favor in Feng Shui are as follows. But first, let me tell you my definition of wealth. And that is the accumulation of material property, the accumulation of skills, and the accumulation of connections. So material property, that refers to land and real estate, but also means of production. So, for example, if you buy some machinery that's going to help you make something that you can sell to make money, that's a good investment. Then investments of skills, education, especially education that's not just for pleasure, but education that can allow you to do something. For example, if you get a training, and as a consequence of that training, you can provide services and charge for those services. That would be considered a really good investment that builds wealth. And then there's connections. Connections are a huge part of wealth. And in here, you can make investments like joining a networking group or joining the Chamber of Commerce. And even in some cases, depending on your type of business and the type of clientele you need to reach, it could be a good investment to join the country club. Because if you join the country club, that puts you in the path of making really good connections for the kind of business that you have. And so the idea is that you invest in the things that are in the end going to generate more money. And you even would invest if it meant borrowing money. So borrowing money is not always wrong, but borrowing money to spend is wrong, because that is making your money go down even faster. Say, like, if you borrow money to go on vacation, you go on vacation for 7 days, that money is gone, and now you're in debt, and that debt accrues interest. So it's like your money sinks at a faster speed. It's like going to the bottom of the ocean, right? And so you can even borrow money in order to invest in these things that are like the tree that is going to produce fruit in the end. So it's okay to borrow money to buy real estate, right? It's okay to borrow money to buy machinery that allows you to create products that you can sell, borrow money for education, and borrow money even for something that is going to get you the right connections. And so the tree, the healthy forest are the symbols of wealth in Feng Shui.
Very good. Yeah. That's exciting. I'd never looked at trees that way. And so, do you think then, or through ancient Chinese teachings, and is there a connections through the? I was almost trying to answer my own question here, so I'll just go ahead and ask.
Yeah.
The love of trees, right, and the love of money. The love of money, the Bible verse that's often misquoted and or not quoted fully or whatever. A lot of people, you grow up with the old belief that the love of money isn't good.
Yeah. So are you talking about scripture?
Yeah, the scripture.
Like the love of money is the source of all evil.
Right, that's how it's often quoted, but it's not the full verse.
Yeah, and I actually like to talk about this because a lot of people say Jesus said that the love of money is the source of all evil, but it wasn't Jesus. it was Paul, I believe, that said that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I have read is that actually in the translation, it wasn't money, it was greed. So the word that they use, mammon, translates as greed, and it
Oh.
has a meaning of loving money over people. So
Uh,
putting money first and trampling over people in order to get the money. And so if you don't love money, what is the alternative? Do you hate money? Are you afraid of money? Are you
mhm,
uncomfortable around money? And so love is the highest vibration you can have, right? Or, there are things above love, I believe, but anything beneath love is not a good thing, right? And so if you're not going to love money, what are you going to do towards money? What kinds of feelings are you going to have toward money? I love money. I love the feeling of getting money, getting paid. I love the feeling of using money to buy things.
mhm,
And I also, I don't have any debt anymore. But when I had debt, I loved paying off my debt. I just got
yeah.
satisfaction from paying debt. And because money is an energy that it is that you use for exchange. So I see money as a pronoun, and I think money is magical. Because if you go back to the time when people were trading and bartering, and say you had a sheep, so you had wool to trade, and you're trying to get food, but the person who has the potatoes and the vegetables, they don't need any wool right now. So then you need to go look for another person that wants to trade their tools for your wool. And then you will use those tools and tell the farmer, hey, you need these tools, can I get some food? And
Mhm.
so money is the universal pronoun because you can exchange it for anything. And it's just wonderful. It's just wonderful that you can have a piece of paper or just digits in the bank and you can transform that into shoes, clothes, a house,
Mhm.
a car, delicious food, right? And so
Mhm.
it's a good thing. Money is a good thing. Now, there's a lot of bad feelings, bad emotions around money. There's a lot of greed, there's a lot of fear. And that's what messes things up. And one thing that we do in Feng Shui is when we exchange money, let me show you. We use red envelopes whenever you pay money. We recommend that whenever possible, you pay things in cash because that is a relationship that is completed in the present moment. And so you use cash and you put it in an envelope that is red. It doesn't have to be a Chinese envelope with decorations like this one, it can be any red envelope. And so you hand the money in the envelope. And as you make the payment, you tell the person, may this money multiply for you and for me.
Oh,
And when
beautiful.
you do that, it completely changes the energy around money. Whenever I do it, I see the eyes of other people light up. It
Yeah,
is such a positive thing to do, like this money that I'm paying you, may it multiply for me and may it also multiply for you. It's a beautiful thing.
it is.
And so that's
Oh,
what we
that's
do with the red
lovely.
envelope. And let me talk a little bit more about doing things in the present time, right? So my mechanic, who's my trusted mechanic, him and his wife, they have taken care of my cars for 19 years, and so we're friends. We so it's not that kind of a friendship that you go to the barbecue. It's that kind of thing that you see each other consistently over time, and there's a bond there. There's
Mhm.
some affection, even though you don't see them all the time. They changed the company that handled their credit card payments, and there was something they didn't realize when they made the change, and it ended up charging them more, like a higher
Mm,
percentage for credit card transactions. So she told me this, and she said, whenever you can, if you can pay cash, that helps us.
mm,
And so I needed to get new tires last week. And so I called on the phone. I said how much it's going to be, and I took the exact amount in cash, right?
mhm,
Once I make the payment, it's done.
mhm,
I took the money, I gave her the money. The tires are on my car. I took it away. It's done. I don't have to think about it. If I had used a check, I have to go make a notation. I have to look at my account, wait for the check to clear. If
mhm.
I had used a debit card, same thing. If I had used a credit card, then I have to go to the account online and make sure it goes through and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if I use a credit card, then I have to pay for it from my bank account. So that is an example of a transaction that doesn't happen in the present. Transactions that happen completely in the present are super, super powerful. And I know today there's a lot of incentives to use credit cards, like you get your rewards and things like that. And that's good. But whenever you can, if you're dealing with somebody locally, try and use a red envelope and put your money in the envelope and tell the person, may this money multiply for you and for me. It's such a positive thing, and it changes your behavior, your energy around money. And also, one of the things that I teach in my group programs, and I have a group program called the Dream Home Lab. So one of the things that I teach them is how to keep money in the house so that it multiplies and so that you don't worry about money. The post I have shared today was related to that. Money is an energy that comes to you from the future. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You can have, just be living paycheck to paycheck. And you can have millions of dollars in the bank or billions of dollars in the bank. And you're always going to worry about money unless you can see money coming to you from the future. So if you know there's an event, there's things that are going to happen that are going to bring you money, you feel this calm about money. But even if you have a lot of money, if you don't see any money coming in from the future, you're going to worry about money. I mean, there's examples of people who are billionaires who are constantly worried about money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, very cool. Yeah, I hadn't heard that either. You were talking about the Bagua map.
Mm-hmm.
When you place it on your home, that the back row is for the past, and the center row
Yeah.
is the present, and then the money comes in at the future at the
Yeah.
front door. Yeah.
Yeah. So in Feng Shui, we do a Bagua map, which means we divide a floor plan of a home into 9 pieces like a tic-tac-toe. So the 3 life areas at the back are associated to the past, and those are wealth, reputation, and marriage. In the middle, you have health, good fortune, and creativity. Those are in the present. And then to the front of the home, you have wisdom, career, and helpful people. And so career is associated with money, and those are the life areas that are symbols of the future. So you're always projecting into the future. When a person can see money coming from the future, they're never worried about money. So I want to tell you the story about a woman I knew who never worried about money. Her name was Christy, and unfortunately, she passed on not too long ago. And she was in her early 50s, so it came as a surprise. When we went to her funeral, at the service, there were about 1,000 people. But already hundreds of people had been coming and going throughout the day, And so Christy, she was a teacher, and she also worked in some special program for teaching in the state of Tennessee. And it was a program that helped kids from Title I schools go to college. And whenever I went anywhere with Christy, she would meet somebody, somebody would be like, hey, Christy. And she always remembered their names, the name of the parents and the name of their siblings. She had been a teacher for a very long time. And when, Christy, she made okay money, and she was disciplined about how she spent it, and she had a retirement fund. So she wasn't worried about when she finished teaching, right? She knew the money was going to be there because she had planned for retirement. And she was very good at her job. Everybody loved her. She had these 2 jobs, right? And she never worried about losing her job. But if something had happened to Christy, if Christy had had some issue where she needed medical treatment that wasn't covered by insurance or something like that, she would probably, if somebody made a GoFundMe for her, she would probably have gotten any money she needed for within a week. Because those over 1,000 people that showed up when she passed on, they would have contributed because she was so loved. And so Christy is an example of a person I met who never worried about money because she could always see money coming from the future. She knew she had a stable job that she was good at, where the money would keep coming. She knew that if that job disappeared, she had enough skills and people skills that she could easily find a job. She knew that she was part of a community of people who loved her and that she had the connections that would help her find a new job if it was necessary. She knew she was such a pillar of her community. If she ever needed help beyond that, the help would come up. So she never worried about money. And then I had a client when I lived in the Midwest. I had a client who had a lot of assets. One building she owned was worth upwards of $8 million. But she was the person I have met that worried the most about money. And she worried about money because she was divorced and she got alimony, right? And she knew in 10 years the alimony would be gone because that was the deal. And she couldn't see money coming to her from the future because she didn't have a profession, she didn't have a passion of something that she could do that would make her money. So her thing was, once the alimony is gone, all the income is gone, and then I would have to start selling properties just to support myself. So she was the person I have met who was the most worried about money.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. It made me wonder if living in a rural culture or something is more of the often people come with the mindset of lack just because you're not as separated, not as perhaps connected with community or something in some ways, and so you feel more you got to do it yourself type of thing versus, I don't know if that plays a factor,
In a
but
rural community?
yeah, but
Yeah, I think, the larger your community is and the more security you have, the smaller your community is, the less security you have. And this could be smallness in terms of you live in a little town where there's only 1,000 people or 200 people. So there's not a lot there, but it also may mean that you're just different. Like a lot of us feel different. And we don't feel like we fit in with everybody in our community. And so that is less wealth. When you don't have strong enough connections in your community, that is less wealth. So that, remember, the components of wealth are material possessions, and that includes land, buildings, and machinery. Skills, especially skills that you can carry with you to different places, and then connections. When you live in a small town, maybe your connections are going to be more of the online connections.
But on the other hand, say coming from a very small town myself and living in a small town now, it's like, yeah, there's less connections, but everybody knows you. And
Yeah.
they probably knew your parents or your grandparents or whatever. And so if you need something, they'll be there.
That's wonderful to have, right? And even as I was saying what I said before, I was thinking about, it depends on how cohesive those connections are, how well they know you. And if you know there would be there for you, that's a wonderful feeling to have. And that's part of your wealth.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that in Feng Shui, the tree is the symbol for wealth. And we also use the term family tree.
Oh, yes.
And so our family is also part of our wealth. It's a component of our wealth because the beliefs you have around wealth, they come from the way you were raised, the amount of money and resources your parents had, the attitude they had towards money and wealth, how well taken care of you were when you were a child. If you felt like, yeah, my needs are being met, the adults are there always making sure that whatever I need, I have as far as they can provide for me. And also part of your wealth is your genetics, in the sense that if you are strong in your health, you are going to be able to accumulate more wealth because you are not going to have to pay a lot of money in doctors because you're going to be able to work more in all sorts of things. But also the kind of strength that comes from having a family that loves you and believes in you. and that maybe, when you are getting started, they can give you a loan to start a business, or that, just knowing, for example, that as a young person, when you leave home, that if things don't go as planned, you always have a place you can come back to. That is
Right.
part of your wealth. The kind of confidence that you get from that is part of your wealth.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Definitely. Could we talk more about now the landscaping and trees in the landscape?
Sure, sure. So, and again, the symbol for wealth in feng shui are the trees, but also trees are considered the people of the vegetable world. So in the animal world, we are the beings with perhaps the most consciousness and the most awareness. I don't know, maybe dolphins have that kind of awareness too, right? So trees are, in the vegetable world, the equivalent of what we are in the animal world, the mammal world. And so humans are considered to be the connectors of heaven and earth, and trees are the connectors of earth and heaven. Would it be possible for me to share a presentation?
Sure, go ahead.
So, where do I do this? Present?
Um, you could, I think you could share it from your own screen. And is there, yeah, the
Share
button at the
screen.
bottom that says present. Uh-huh.
Okay, so I guess I have to allow Google Chrome to share my screen.
I can't say I'm very good at it. I'm still learning how.
It seems I would have to quit in order to show that. So let me
Maybe.
look for a way around it. I think that there was an option to share a PDF.
Mhm. And then
So
I can add it from here. I mean, I think you add it to the bottom and then I add it to the
yeah.
screen, I think.
Okay, so let's see. Present slides and PDFs.
And while you're
It
doing
says you
that,
have no slides. Oh, from your computer.
you could use images, though, I think. Um,
Okay, so I think I'm figuring it out.
okay. While you do that, I'm just going to show my like and subscribe button to remind people to please help me grow on YouTube so
Yes.
others can listen to people like Moni and other guests who have wonderful, interesting things to say.
So it says processing, but
Okay.
let me, just keep talking in the meantime.
Oh, here it is. I can add
It
it
is?
now.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So if you would go to page 9. So Feng Shui is the ancient East Asian art of placement that teaches you what to put where so you can be happy, healthy, and successful. So you can feel more relaxed, get along with others better, and be more productive. And that's inside and outside. The next one.
Oh,
So in Feng Shui, we work with something that is called the 3 levels of reality. According to Feng Shui, the human soul is a 2-part being. The one part is your spirit that came from heaven, and the other part is the animal part, right? The body that is the gift from the earth. And so you are a spiritual being in a body that was provided by the earth. So next, you have heaven and you have earth. So heaven is like the spirit world, and earth is the physical reality we exist in. And they are joined by humankind. Next. So humankind connects heaven and earth. Next one. Heaven is where ideas come from. Humankind is characterized by emotions, and the earth is action. So what we're supposed to do as human beings is that we get ideas from heaven, inspiration. we get motivated through our emotions, and then we take action in the physical world. So you know how popular the law of attraction has become, where everybody's thinking you just have to think positive and have good emotions and things will come to you. But the way things actually happen in the reality we live in is through actions. So our ideas, our inspiration, our emotions, our motivation, and our actions are what actually creates heaven on earth. Next one. So we talk in Feng Shui about the reality triangle. To make any change in your reality, you have to work with your ideas, your emotions, and your actions. So anything that you want to change is going to have a thought component, an emotional component, and the actions that you take. Next. So humans get ideas from heaven, motivate themselves through emotions, and they put actions onto the earth. That is how we operate. But trees, the next one, trees are the opposite of humans, and they are considered the people of the vegetable world. And so from the earth, the tree extracts nutrients. And it starts with a seed, right? The tree starts with a seed. And most trees, right, the seed is ridiculously small compared to what the tree is going to become, right? Like the size of an acorn compared to the size of a full-grown oak, it's just such a difference, right? And so you put the seed in the earth, and the seed sprouts. It sends roots down to the earth and then starts growing up. And so the tree is constantly extracting nutrients from the earth, just like we extract ideas from heaven. So then the tree, and it does this through water, remember, right? Through the water, the tree collects the nutrients and it generates growth through the tree trunk, and then the branches and the leaves and the foliage. That produces flowers, that produces the fruit or the nuts, the seeds, right? And so it comes full circle. The next slide. So humans and trees create a full spiritual circuit of connection with heaven and earth. So the person is getting spiritual energy and bringing it down to the earth. And then the tree is taking the energy from the earth and bringing it up to the skies. So the tree pulls the water and the nutrients up the trunk into the branches and the foliage. And then the foliage releases aerosols into the air, and it also releases vapor into the air. That vapor goes to the sky and becomes clouds, and eventually those clouds become rain, and it all comes down full circle. So when you sit under a tree, you create a full spiritual circuit. There's so many stories, in East and West that talk about the a person was sitting under a tree, and then they had a big idea, and then they got inspired. And so when you sit under a tree, when you take a nap under a tree, when you stand and do meditation, or when you do Tai Chi or Qigong under a tree, you are going to find it a lot easier to connect heaven and earth. And there's actually a belief in ancient East Asian philosophy that trees are sending like a report card to heaven, like trees are telling heaven how humanity is doing. And so this is a very, very powerful symbolism for trees, right? And I recommend that every person create a relationship with a tree. If you have a tree in your home, yeah, in your yard, right, go sit under the tree. If you have more than one tree in your home, try sitting under all of the trees in your property and see which one do you feel the most peace when you're sitting under that tree. Maybe build a tree bench, or take out a blanket, a cotton or linen blanket or wool, and go outside and sit under the tree, lie down under the tree, and you're going to feel such happiness. Some of the aerosols that trees release, it's really, really fascinating, because in the later, probably the last 10-15 years, a lot more research has been done about trees. So trees are just fantastic in many ways. For example, the willow tree releases some aerosols that have a substance that helps people with depression. And so in Great Britain, they would send people to go sit under the willow tree when they felt sad. There's also in northern areas of the world the evergreen trees in the winter. They release these aerosols that fight colds. Trees in There's a particular type of evergreen tree way up north that changes the flavor of its leaves to be less bitter so that the deer and the elk can have more food that they like. And that allows people in those areas to survive because then they can also hunt. There's so many things that trees do. The Japanese have this concept of forest bathing, where they tell you that if you go walk in the forest, that is therapeutic. And for a while, people thought that was just because being outside is good for you. You breathe fresh air, you get sunshine, and it's just peaceful, right? But now they're finding out that there's also all these aerosols that you breathe in through your nose, lungs. But there's also some aerosols that you absorb through the skin. They have all sorts of benefits. So I would say that trees are the helper of people. And if you can establish a relationship with a tree, you are going to be a happier person. I have written this in my book, The House of Many Gardens. I have a whole chapter devoted to trees where I share the most magnificent stories about trees. But the one I want to share here is that the indigenous people of Ecuador, I'm from Ecuador, South America. When a child is born, the father plants a tree for them. And the child and the tree can grow together. Now, until the child is a year old, the father takes care of the tree. As soon as the child learns to walk, they go with the father every morning to look at the tree and to tend to the tree. Mm-hmm. And around 3-4 years old, the child starts caring for the tree by themselves. Every morning before breakfast, the mom sends them to say hello to the tree, say good morning to the tree before breakfast. And as they grow older, in the teenage years, if they're having the adolescent angst, if they get angry, if they are misbehaving, they're sent to spend time with a tree. And as adults, whenever, if they move away, if they go live in the city, and they come back to ask for the counsel of the tree before making any big decision, like getting married, buying property, starting school. And I think that's just beautiful, beautiful to have that relationship that you and a tree are born in the same day, that you grow together, and that they always seek counsel from the tree. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, that's beautiful. About made me cry.
I
It's a
also feel like
beautiful thing. I
I feel
know
like tears were coming.
yeah, when I was little, my parents, I have a brother and a sister, and my parents had planted, not on the day we were born, but they planted trees for each of us three. So
Really?
we watched the trees grow, and I couldn't say we did all the care for them or anything,
Yeah.
but they're still standing. I go home and talk to my tree. Yeah,
Oh my goodness, that's so beautiful.
it is. It is.
And it's also, it's fascinating to see how some ideas just transcend cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't have known anything about that.
Yeah, I feel a little jealous to know you have a tree that's your tree.
Oh, I do.
that you can go back, right? Because of course, because I have uprooted myself 3 times, and I don't have that kind of connection with the land. But we do have fabulous maple tree in our property.
But I have that reminds me, this ties in with the trees. Okay, so of the 3 trees out in front of my parents' house on the farm, it's like I'm the middle child, and so my tree's in the middle. And the other 2 trees on either side, my brother and sister are fairly similar in many ways, right? And they both more take after my mother's side of the family, and their trees look a lot more similar to each other. I mean, they're all the exact same thing. They're all just northern cedar evergreen tree. And so, but my tree in the middle, I take after more of my dad and his side of the family.
Yeah.
And my tree is shaped different. The branches came out lower, and yeah, it's just a different growth habit than the other trees.
Oh,
It's just interesting.
I have so many stories about really interesting things that have happened with my clients and students around plants. And there have been cases of, plants that have a certain color of a flower that was not the best for their feng shui. And then the next year when they came back, they changed color. The
Oh,
flowers were a
wow.
different color. I have stories of plants that grew in ways they were not supposed to grow. Like the plant usually has a certain shape, but in this particular home, it grew in a different shape because the people who lived in that home had a certain expectation of what the plant should be like. I mean, there's so many amazing stories about that, about the growth and our relationship with trees. When the type of feng shui that I do is based on ancient East Asian medicine, which started in China, ancient Chinese medicine, and then spread to other countries in the region. And the way I practice feng shui, it's based on those healing principles. I don't do feng shui. I don't use the compass directions. I don't use birth dates. I don't do one numbers because I think those practices have ended up in fear-based attitudes. When you tell people that, like they do in compass school feng shui, that 4 directions are positive for you, 4 directions are negative for you, people just become obsessed with their negative directions. And so the way I do it is I use the same principles that they use in acupuncture, qigong, tai chi, and Chinese massage, herbalism. And so what we do is we make your home into a messenger to heaven. So remember how I told you that trees are considered to be the messengers to heaven? And actually, trees are believed to send a report card to heaven on how we're doing. And so the way I practice feng shui, we turn the home into a tree, right? We make the home send messages to heaven so that you can be, when you are in your home, you can have that feeling of sitting under the tree all the time. So the seed of the tree is equivalent to potential. Actually, the seed means potential in feng shui. And the home needs to have vitality, be full of vitality. Go to the next slide. So the seed is the potential. Then you need to have vitality so that you can have purpose. Your home is constantly sending messages to heaven on how you're doing, on how you're feeling, and what are your purposes for the future. And that's why it's so important to work on your home. A friend and I were talking about feng shui yesterday, and she was saying that she doesn't have beauty as a value, like she doesn't value beauty very much, but her partner does. Her partner, he's really into beauty. That is to him the most important thing. And what I was telling her is that my objective, I talk a lot about having a beautiful home, but what beauty is to different people is going to look different. What I want for every person that works with me or studies with me is that they feel proud of their home. I don't want them to ever open the doors to their home to an unexpected visitor and be embarrassed of the home. Because if you're embarrassed of the home, you're embarrassed of yourself and you're embarrassed of how you live. You're uncomfortable with how you live if you are embarrassed of your home. And that's not good. One of the things my grandmother taught me is that you have to know how to live. People are not born knowing how to live. They have to learn how to live. It's a skill that you develop. And, it's like when you're a child, you want to eat with your hands. And at some point, your parents, your caretakers, they teach you how to use cutlery so that you can eat using cutlery. That doesn't mean that later on you can't use your hands to eat a hot dog or a pizza slice. Whatever you want to eat with your hands, you can eat with your hands. But there's this moment in life where you are taught how to use tools. And so just like you have to learn how to use a spoon, how to use a fork, you also have to learn how to use your dining room as a whole, how to use your bedroom as a whole, how to use your living room. As you learn how to use the different rooms in the home, you learn how to live. And that is super important. So let's move to the next slide. And so in order to turn your home into this tree that makes a full spiritual circuit with you and communicates with heaven, First, we look at, if you see at the bottom, the circle, it says building the body of the home. So we work on the things that have to do with the way your building was built. Then in the middle, you see where it says finishes, and that's in a way the soul of the home. So that's the major decisions that you have done, the kind of floors that you have, the kinds of finishes you have on the walls, like whether you have paint, whether you have tile, and major decisions that you have made regarding colors, large mirrors, and things like that. And then at the top, you see furnishings, right? So that's about the spirit of the home. The furnishings and the furniture, accessories, and decorations, these are the things that are easy to move. And these are the things that are saying, what do you want out of life? What do you want out of life? So, for example, if you want to eat good foods, is your home conducive to eating good foods, or is your home conducive to eating junk food? I remember I went to see a client, way back in the day when I lived in Mississippi. I went into this home and I found the most spotless kitchen that I had ever seen. And I asked her, how long have you lived in this home? And she said 7 years. And I'm like, how can you keep it so clean? I have never, and she said, oh, we have never cooked here.
Wow.
Right. And so they ate out, they would get takeout. So the only thing they use in their kitchen is a microwave. So her kitchen was not set up for cooking, it was set up for show. Everything that you want to achieve in your life, there's a representation of it in your home. And you can actually use your home as a three-dimensional vision board. And a vision board, like you make a collage, and that's a way to tell heaven what you want out of life. And so your home is a three-dimensional vision board. There's these sections in the home, the different rooms in the home, they give different messages. For example, if you are in a relationship, if you are married, and you push the bed to one side, like so one side is touching the wall, that means that of the two of you, one person can walk to their side of the bed, the other person has to crawl to their side of the bed. One person has an easy time making the bed on their side, but it's very hard to make the bed on the other side. So that's a relationship of inequality. If you are a couple and you push the bed to one side, that's a relationship of inequality. So all these things, in the book, The House of Many Gardens, I talk a lot about the things I learned from my grandmother as a young child, visiting the homes of many different kinds of people. And it was interesting to see that you could see, for example, if a person was insecure and they wanted to impress others, they would make stupid mistakes in their home. My grandmother, I was 3 years old, and my grandmother would point these things out to me. For example, how over the top some centerpiece was. One time that we went to have tea in some lady's home that was very rich, and she had bought this centerpiece that made it impossible for you to have a conversation. So you will see people turning their head one way to the other, trying to listen to the other person, because they had put this really over large, flashy, very expensive centerpiece on the table. And so my grandmother will always make me notice those things, right? And you can read so much about a person. So this person, they were more interested in impressing people, in flaunting their money, than in making people feel comfortable in their homes. And it's kind of coming full circle in this conversation about money. It's not the love of money that is the problem. It's when you love money more than you love people. So if you work with Feng Shui, with the type of Feng Shui that I practice, you turn your home into that messenger to heaven that can tell heaven exactly what it is you want, exactly what it is you need. And so we use the home as a vision board, and we place reminders of the things that we want, and we use symbols, right? So for example, my kitchen and dining is in the areas of the home that are associated to health and wealth. And these two life areas work with the wood element, and the symbol is the healthy tree. So I painted an evergreen tree. I painted an evergreen tree, and I put it on the wall in my kitchen to remind myself, right, that wealth is something that grows. Wealth is something that you build, and it goes little by little. And it's also very interesting, that the further north you go, like from the equator, the further north you go, the slower the tree grows.
Mhm.
And when the tree grows more slowly, the wood is harder because it's more compact, right? And so that's why lumber from Canada is superior to lumber in the United States, because their trees grow more slowly. So the wood is more compact. And that's why we have found in the last few months, we have found that, wow, most of our lumber actually comes from Canada. And it's because it's a superior kind of wood. And so I remind myself, that the true growth, the growth that is going to last, is a growth that comes from patience and persistence. And um, and it's going to be the most rewarding later on, because we live in a society that is always advertising to us fast growth. You see a lot, especially if you're in business, right? Like if you're in business, you're an entrepreneur, and you're constantly seeing these ads. If you go to Facebook and like have figured out you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be bombarded with these ads. And the general theme of these ads is, you don't know what you're doing. You should be making six figures. You should be doubling your income. Like you should be working 2 hours a week and making millions. And that's not the reality. The reality is that the businesses take work. You take time to build your skills. You take time to build relationships. There's all these things that are important for you to do as an individual. And also, my tree that I painted is to me the reminder that it's about being in communion with nature. It's about being in communion with your community, right? You're not growing alone, and you progress as the people around you progress. When you're in business, your progress means that other people are doing well. Like if you are a healer, my husband's a chiropractor, and the better he does in the business, that is evidence of all the people he's helping, because people are coming to him with aches and pains and reduced function. And after he works on them, they're able to go back to work. They become more productive. They become happier. They have less stress. They get along better with their families, right? So every bit of growth that we see in my husband's chiropractic practice is not evidence of how good he is in business, which he is, right? Like, but the biggest evidence there is the evidence that he's helping people. People are happy with what he's doing, and they're telling other people. And so every spot in your home can be a reminder of what you want to achieve in each of the 9 life areas. And that is the power of Feng Shui. And that is the power of trees. Do you want to stop the share so I can show you something and talk about my hummingbird project?
Okay. Hmm.
And so in the United States, in all of North America, you have two species of hummingbirds. In Ecuador alone, there's 135 species of hummingbirds, because it's a country the size of the state of Colorado, but it's on the equator, and the Andes mountains go through it. So you have all these different microclimates in all these different valleys in the country. So the biodiversity in Ecuador per acre is the highest in the world. And close to where I was born, in the highlands of the Andes Mountains, there's this little hummingbird, and I made a painting of it.
Hmm.
It's called Samarrito pechinegro, which means the black-breasted puffleg. So if you look at the little legs, it has these little tiny, tiny feathers that look like they look like fur. So it's like it has these little furry pants to protect the legs from freezing, because it's such a cold spot. And it's endemic of a certain region. If that region disappears, the hummingbird disappears. And so through a foundation called Hokotoco, GOCOTOCO, I sponsor restoring the habitat of this little bird and also the habitats of other birds in the region. So if you go to my website, and it's all spelled out, no numbers, 9steps to fengshui.com, 9steps to fengshui.com. You can go there, or also you can type no spaces, space arrangement.com, space arrangement.com also takes you there. So on the menu, if you click on the menu, there's going to be a search bar. And if in the search bar, enter this: pay tree karma, pay tree karma. So I believe that an essential element of building your wealth is being good to trees. And I recommend to my clients and students that if you have to cut down one tree, you plant 4 trees to pay your tree karma. Because remember, they're like people in the vegetable world, but sometimes you have to cut one. And so if you search for pay tree karma, it's going to take you to a page where I talk about how to pay your tree karma, because you also have tree karma from all the trees that were cut to build your house, from all the paper that you use throughout the year, from all the furniture that you buy. And so you can see a calculation there on that page of how many trees you have to plant. You don't have to plant them yourself. You can pay somebody to plant them for you. So one of the reasons I like this Foundation Hokotoko, and I have the links on that page so you can go and donate, is that other places where you can make donations so that they can plant trees, they just go and throw the seeds and they don't take care of them. But this foundation, they plant the trees and they look after them for 3 or 4 years to make sure that the trees get well established. And so that's one of the reasons I like them so much. And I have, my friend and I started this project by ourselves. My friend bought property next to the national park. So I would send her the money and she would get the people, and we started restoring the forest by ourselves, just the two of us, right? And then she went somewhere and she caught the attention of the foundation. The foundation said that what you're doing is so in alignment with what we're doing that we want to help. So we ended up planting. My objective original was 500. We ended up planting 5,000 between trees and bushes, because the foundation people said, the trees, planting the trees is not enough. You have to plant the bushes that have these flowers that the hummingbirds feed from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it ended up being a wonderful project, and I continue to support them every month. And so you can go, and there's actually a video, an interview that I did with my friends, on what we did and how we're going about it. And we actually hired a lot of the indigenous women of the region to do the planting. So it's a beautiful project, and I invite you to check that out. And if you like what they're doing, choose to pay your tree karma through them.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing about that. Go ahead.
The House of Many Gardens is the book where I talk a lot about feng shui landscaping and stories. And there's a whole chapter devoted to trees and how trees can help you grow wealth.
And one question related to that: if someone wanted to plant a tree in their yard outside of needing to call 1-800-DIG-SAFE to miss the buried wires, and not wanting to plant, I guess, too close to your house in case the roots disturb the foundation, what's a feng shui tip for people in
choosing
planting a
trees?
tree? Choosing a tree, or where to plant it, or where not to plant
so
it.
Where to plant is safety first. The tree can't be too close to the house. So you need to calculate what's going to be the final height of the tree. That's how far the tree should be from the building. So if the tree ever fell, during a storm, it wouldn't hurt your house. Another requirement for feng shui is it's better to have trees on the sides and at the back than to have them at the front of the house. But if you have them at the front of the house, a tree should not cover up the front door. So you should still be able to go across the street and take a picture for real estate and clearly see the door. You have, and I talk about it in the book a lot, the different trees that you need. Every house needs at least one evergreen tree so that it's not desolate during the winter. And I also recommend that you have at least one deciduous tree, because that's a reminder of how everything is changing constantly. And sometimes we get stuck and we don't want to adapt to change. So at least have one deciduous tree, and have at least one tree that produces something that you can eat, if possible. So those would be one evergreen, one deciduous tree, and one tree that has something that you can eat. And if your property is not big enough for that, at least have one plant that produces food, because we all need a connection with nature. We all need a connection with farming. Like I know, when things get uncertain, I know you have a vegetable garden, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you know that no matter how inflation affects food, you're always going to have something that you control, because you plant your garden. If you take care of your garden, you know there's going to be a certain amount of food that comes to you from your garden. So that kind of security that gives you to have some kind of food, even if you don't produce enough food to feed yourself, just having like one tomato plant in a pot, one cilantro plant on your windowsill, always having something in your home that you can grow to eat. And another thing is, and I also talk about it a lot in the food, the medicine men and women of Latin America, the indigenous people, they believe that if a healing plant all of a sudden sprouts in your yard, or if you go on a hike and you see a healing plant, that's meant for you. You have to eat it, you have to drink it, you have to make a tea. And so sometimes things that grow spontaneously in your home. And so I was looking at, we're coming out of the spring right now. I mean, out of the winter into the spring, and I was noticing a lot of wild onions, right? And so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go look what are the healing properties of wild onions, and see if maybe I need some of that. And of course, dandelions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, my yard is full of healing plants. It's fun
Yeah.
to see them green up again in the spring. They're
Yeah.
starting now. Um, and I just wanted to say before we close, tell people right after the last time Moni was on in January for the podcast, I joined her program. And so I'm been in it, maybe 6 weeks now or something like that.
Just
And
about.
I'm starting to see some of the um, benefits from it. And it's been really cool in many ways. And so I just wanted to say, if anyone's interested, it's a good program.
Yeah, I
And
train people to
Moni's,
become Feng Shui consultants and practice Feng Shui as a branch of ancient East Asian medicine.
yeah, very good. Well, thank you so much, Moni, for
Thank
coming today and
you.
all you've told us about the trees and ourselves. And thank you, everyone else, for watching. We really appreciate it. So we'll catch you next time.